Starfleet Underground. Every week, we'll take a look at the latest Star Trek news and then check out a current or classic episode of Star Trek. On our final teaser, it's movie time. We review Star Trek Nemesis, the last time we've seen the crew before the new Star Trek Picard. We'll talk about the action, the comedy, the actors, the makeup, getting sucked out into space, and why you never mess with the break room refrigerator.
Coming to you from somewhere out there in space is Starfleet Underground. We're here with another exciting episode talking about, of course, Picard, but since it's not out yet, we've reviewed the movie Nemesis. We have Fred and Rocky, and as well as Heather. So this is our first sample. It looks like it's going to be since the New Year. So Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hey, so Fred, how was your away mission?
It was awesome. Had a great Christmas, had a great New Year's, and getting all pumped up, excited for Picard.
And I do want to thank you because you fixed the replicator. I was able to have my oatmeal with the bowl and with no tribbles in the room. So thank you so much for that.
No tribble at all.
I see what you did there. How about you, Heather? How's it going with you?
Doing good. So psyched for the new year. And I was trying to think of a New Year resolution. Do you guys have any New Year's resolutions?
My resolution will be in 4K, but I'm a video geek.
That's pretty cool. Mine is my quest to become immortal. I'm going to either do it or die trying.
Good luck with that.
My goal is to just make it so.
And my New Year's resolution is to stop eating food out of the break room fridge. People don't like that, and I don't want to be sucked out into space again.
Oh, so that's what happened to my chicken pot pie.
That's why I never put anything in that fridge.
So now we're going to talk about news. Any exciting news anybody's heard? Anything coming up?
Well, the second issue of Picard is out. You know, the Picard Countdown comic book. Has anyone seen that yet?
No.
Not yet. Is it? Nobody here's had a chance. Well, you know, delivery out this far is kind of difficult.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes they move at impulse speed, not warp speed. but yeah, that's something to keep an eye out. It should be at the local comic shops, unless they've sold out. I've heard that a number of the comic book stores have been selling out of them pretty quickly. But yeah, issue 2 came out a week before Christmas.
Cool.
I should look into see if we can get a digital copy. Subspace should be a lot quicker than local delivery. How about you, Rocky? You had anything on any news that you've come across? You know how you guys have scuttlebutt in engineering.
I've, we're addicted to Twitter feeds, of course. I've famously approved of Riker Googling, but I've been getting into Starfleet tech support because they're on Twitter providing tech support to everybody, and they always have problems, and they're always in need of getting another Timmy. So you've got to be careful when you need tech support because it can get dangerous.
Oh, no, not Timmy.
That's a classic callback to, I think it was the Dinosaur Show.
Yeah.
And they needed another Timmy. It was hilarious.
I remember that. Not the mama.
Yeah, not the mama, not the mama.
Yes.
I love that.
You guys all have great taste.
Oh, we got to check to see if that's going to be the new red shirt call whenever they got to go down with the captain.
Oh, my God.
We need another
Not
Timmy.
the red shirt.
And of course, looking over the last bit, I saw a picture come out of what Hugh is going to look like in the Picard series. You know how
cool.
Seven's got her own look, the non-Borg look. She's the natural Borg look or natural woman look that Seven has. And Hugh's got one too. And he's not a bad looking dude.
He has a natural woman look?
Not a natural woman. No, well, he might. And in fact, that's a possibility. But as a non-Borg Borg, yeah.
When you said that, I got a picture of him, and damn the curves that I got. The picture of the curves with his face. Yeah.
I am located near San Francisco, so this is a possibility that I may be mixing things up. But the picture, no, he's full makeup, so he's got the implants on his face still, but he's got you can see more of his face. When you saw him in the Next Generation show, you only saw half his face. Well, you got to see his whole face, and he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so basically he's not in his full Borg attire from TNG.
Yeah.
That's minimal Borg attire. Yeah.
Minimal Borg,
so he's going to be like a Jerry Ryan version then, right?
Correct.
Where he only
That's
has
right.
a few implants.
Only slightly womanly, yeah.
I will quote what one of my female friends had said when they saw him was, and this is a direct quote, damn.
That's a good compliment.
That's basically, I would agree with that compliment. There's a lot of things going by in these Picard trailers. It's like, you got to really pay attention. You got to frame by frame some of these things to catch everything.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys seen the sign where it's the facility has gone 5,843 days without an assimilation? Did you guys see that?
That's gold.
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw somebody post that on Twitter. I'm like, they got to be kidding me, right? And then I actually watched the trailer and was like, oh my God, that was a sign they were talking about. Okay, so it's actually in there. There's some crazy stuff in the trailers if you want to. Aside from being blown away by everything happening, if you frame by frame some of this stuff, you can see some things.
That's friggin' cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Heather, I sent you a subspace on communique for you. You should be able to see it on your viewing screen any moment there. All right. I am putting it out there for the Oh, I sent the wrong one. Do not pay attention. It's an old picture of me in a bathtub. You don't need to see that one. Just delete that one. Go past it.
That was a close file name.
And before you ask, yes, that is a rubber ducky in the shape of the Enterprise. So everyone has a visual representation of him.
I'm telling you, he's a good-looking Borg.
Yes.
Men age pretty well.
Oh, he was pretty young to begin with.
Yeah,
That's
some
true.
men do age really well.
Well, to be quite honest, I never really knew what the actor looked like when I saw him on the show, because under all that Borg makeup, how could you tell?
Well, I had that problem with Jerry Ryan. It's like, oh, a new Borg woman. Okay. And then you see her and like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Like an episode or two later.
Of course, when I was that age, I had that reaction to most women. So still do, kind of.
Oh, my.
Exactly.
You could always tell when it was ratings time, because I noticed that on Next Generation, as well as Voyager, when it came time to, anytime you had any female characters leave the scene, the camera would watch them leave. So you have a ample opportunity to admire their leaving, so to speak. And when Counselor Troy...
I hate to see you go, but I love to see you walking away.
There you go.
I don't mind watching, yeah.
Yeah, and then Counselor Troy, anytime it was rating time, she'd pull out the V-neck. So it was always the V-neck.
I thought she always wore the V-neck.
No, it was a deeper V, and usually they followed her out the room as well. But Jerry Ryan...
And the camera angles, yeah, I can see the camera work.
Yep. Yeah, the same thing with Jerry Ryan. Every time she left with that spray-on Borg thing they have, they made sure that you had a good opportunity to see her leave for a half a heartbeat more than you would any of the men.
Which, for any other reason to have an argument, we need high-definition conversions of these old shows. We have to have this so we can put it up on our 60-inch screen and stand really close.
Hey, Fred, you need to get on that.
I don't think Paramount or CBS has any more plans for converting the shows. I mean, they did it for TOS, but yeah, I haven't heard if they're going to do that for any of the other shows.
Well, yeah, it is an issue, technically speaking, because they shot all of this stuff. Almost all of this has been shot in 35 millimeter, which you can go back to the films and get back the reels and redigitize them and get them in higher quality. But you have the issue of all the special effects. So we had all these animations that were done, and converting them to HD is the hardest part of the whole. Can I get it in HD? Quandary.
Yeah.
If you look at the Deep Space Nine documentary, you'll see some of these shots they did, and I don't know if they're recreations or if they're up conversions. They don't look too bad. They look pretty darn good, and some of the footage in HD is phenomenal. So it's something we all want, and it's something that if you throw enough money at it, somebody's going to be able to do it. But as far as priorities of these production companies, I think it's not a highest thing on their list. Although it would be awesome to see these shows in HD. and have them preserved as much resolution as possible.
Yeah. Like I said, it probably comes down to cost and whether the studios can, justify it.
But would you like to see some Picard, or would you like to get another shot of Jerry Ryan in HD? It's very, very confusing.
Yeah. You might get both in Picard.
See?
He's in it.
There you go.
A 2-for-1 special. Huh?
Yeah, see, that's how they get you. So we don't need to redo all this old stuff. We got new stuff.
Now, in the common space that we have down there in our common area, the show of the week was Star Trek Nemesis. I'm sure everybody rotated in and out to watch. I think that you were in there with me for a little while there, Fred. And I know Rocky was in there adjusting the display in there because you wanted to do the old style look at the wall thing instead of the holodeck theater. And I think you did as well, Heather. So what did everyone think?
Well, first, you stole my popcorn.
Yeah, it was out there. Sorry.
I was missing the popcorn as well. I was thinking about it. I almost paused it to make some, but other people were watching. So,
Yeah, we can always replicate some more, right?
yeah, but you got to go wait 30 seconds for it to cook, and
I know, the line. I'm telling you, I don't want to wait in the line. Why can't we have a replicator where it just appears
just
right in front of
beam
me?
it in.
Come on,
beam
technology.
in the popcorn with the butter right there.
Yes. Yes. Okay, I think that's the newest invention. I think we got it.
I'll be honest and say, guys, this is the first time I've seen this movie since I saw it when it was in the theaters in 2002. I was really affected by the ending of this movie. It really freaking pissed me off. I was angry at Star Trek just because of the ending of this movie. I was heartbroken. And I actually have not purchased the DVD. I actually had to buy the darn thing for iTunes so I could watch it. So that's how pissed off I was at the ending of this movie. The sad thing about it is it's a really darn good movie. Oh my God. If you want the quintessential action movie Star Trek, they nailed the hell out of it on this movie. Although I think First Contact was a little bit more Star Trek-y and also a good action movie. But this one, they're blowing stuff up all over the place, left and right. The subwoofer in the theater was a rockin'. We had to, turn it down a little bit so the stuff wouldn't fly off the table. It was such a good movie, except for the ending, which I still have an argument against. But yeah, I was enjoying it.
There was a lot of humor in this, too. I was pretty impressed with how many jokes that they had, especially at the beginning. And they had some pretty good ones. I totally geeked out when Picard said, Mr. Troy. And then you got that look. That was just awesome.
The comical timing of all the lines. B4 got some really good lines. Why is his head so shiny? Why does a tall man have a furry face? Hilarious off the wall lines. It's when Star Trek gets comedy in there, it's freaking hilarious and completely unexpected.
One of my favorites is from the very beginning, where Picard, when Data's going on his diatribe, Picard says, "Shut up, Data." It's like, I always wanted to say that. We never get it.
You figure over the years he'd say it.
Yes.
Yeah, because over the years, he's always verbose. He's like, sometimes he figures out when to stop talking, but usually you got to tell him if you stop. It's like talking to the robot lady. You just, Alexa, stop. Just shut up.
And then Picard was like, "Shut up, Data."
That's what we do with our androids. Just shut up.
It just reminded me of some of the early Star Trek episodes. Like I said, they were kind of making I think a little bit of a reference to that, and it was just funny. Hey, did you notice in that scene at the beginning with the wedding that Wesley Crusher was there too?
Yeah, they had a lot of cameos. Not only Wesley Crusher, but Whoopi Goldberg. But she was only in one scene. Yes.
Yeah, Guinan.
And how many marriages?
She was only in one scene. 23.
Yeah.
23 marriages. Oh, my goodness.
I wrote it down.
That's the amount of lifespan you have to have had for 23 marriages. I mean, some women can do that in like a decade real easy, but it sounded impressive nonetheless.
Some men could do that too in a decade. I mean, come on, equal opportunity.
Well, if you're going to play fair, yeah, I guess that's right.
But yeah, they did a lot of fan service in this movie with the Riker Troy marriage, with the funny quips, things that you would never hear Picard say. He said, like, the shut up, Data. And it was really very well put together. And Janeway, they even brought Janeway back.
Yes,
I hope
Admiral Janeway.
Picard is like this. I hope watching Picard is like watching this, where you see all of the cameos and it's funny and, you know, it's all in good humor, but it had like a really good story underneath. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
How about the quality of the actors in this movie? Just the bad guys, Tom Hardy and Ron Perlman. Could you not cast a better set of bad guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what these guys have done since this movie. They're quality actors through and through all the way out. I'm like, this casting is so good. Like if you had to cast a movie now and get these guys in it, it would be a major coup. So just watching it then, it was like they were ahead of the time as far as casting. It's so good.
Yeah, they did a great job with that.
And let's talk about makeup.
Yeah, did you recognize who we're talking about because of all the makeup?
was phenomenal. I mean, there was certain camera angles where you swore to de-age Picard in order for him to do that role when he was talking to his younger clone self. They did a phenomenal job of being able to match it in order to get him to look almost exactly like Picard would have when he was a younger age, you know? So I thought that was pretty cool. And now let's talk about the gross factor where the veins pop out on his forehead.
Yeah. Just throughout the end of this movie, his makeup continually aged and just degenerated throughout the whole, like every shot. It was like, did he have that vein before? That vein got longer. How many veins? There's so many veins in his head. What's happening to this guy? He's falling apart.
Yeah.
It was the continuity. Did they have to shoot this in sequence to do it that well? Or they did just the amount of planning to get that makeup done right every day is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been a challenge if they had to do a reshoot. Yeah, because then the makeup guys would have to go, okay, how big were his veins in this part of the story? And
well, that would be the continuity guy, the continuity department. Yeah. There. Did you know they have a team of people that actually their sole job is to sit and pay attention to it to see if anything is out of place or doesn't match or doesn't look the same. That's why there was such a big hoopla on that other show, Game of Thrones, when the coffee cup was on the table, the Starbucks cup, you know, because the continuity check.
Yes, because someone wasn't doing their job.
Continuity checker is supposed to do that. So like, for instance, if somebody has a glass and they're drinking from it and it's half full in a shot, and then the next shot is 3/4 full, the next shot it's 1/4 full.
Yeah,
somebody's supposed to make sure. Yeah, they're supposed to look at that and say, no, that's not right.
You know, when I saw that on Game of Thrones, the first thing I did was I yelled at my TV and I said, continuity error. And I'm sure people would have been like, huh, if they heard me, but I'm like, okay.
So nobody noticed that Starbucks cup sitting right there? That's funny.
This episode brought to you by Starbucks.
Yeah, no, stop that.
Seriously, product placement.
Pay me up, product placement.
It's always interesting when Star Trek drops back to a song, because modern day songs, it's like, how do you pick something that everyone's going to love and agree with? And I bet Heather's not old enough to have remembered hearing this song before this movie.
Which song was that?
Blue Skies?
Blue Skies in the beginning.
Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda. See what I mean? This is what we have to work with over here.
No, I didn't recognize that song.
It's growing up, before I got hip and was listening to music from the 80s, I, grew up with the stuff my parents listened to and the stuff that was on the easy listening station before that, just so I could fall asleep. I listened to stuff that was, the traditionals that people didn't listen to at that time of day is what I listened to fall asleep at night. And so I was familiar with Blue Skies. And I think, did Willie Nelson do a cover of that one too?
That I don't know. And I listened to a lot of Willie Nelson.
Yeah, I think he did. But yeah, it's a beautiful old song. And to have Star Trek bring it in, puts it right up there with the realm of the Beastie Boys and that Stayin' Alive cover that was in Discovery. So it's interesting when you take a look at the music they bring back and bring forward to the centuries later and relate it to the people now. It's an interesting temporal issue to deal with music.
Hey, we also learned that Klingons and Romulan ale don't go together very well.
That surprised me. But, Worf he's a Starfleet Klingon. He's not a Klingon. So he doesn't always get out and party so hard as he used to.
And he likes prune juice. So I guess that sitting there with the constant urge to crap yourself make one feel like a warrior.
Yeah, it's not necessarily compatible.
But as I was watching the movie, I was kind of thinking that maybe the reference to Romulan ale was there partly as a joke, but also maybe a little bit of foreshadowing, for the role that the Romulans were going to play in the movie.
Oh, that's a good observation there.
Very interesting. I think it's like they're always drinking Romulan ale in Star Trek, and it's always illegal, but they always seem to get it. What is with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't turn the replicator on and get good quality Romulan ale. You got to go find that stuff. So it's a big deal to get Romulan ale.
Well, it works out that they're, out in space, exploring, going around, and they're in Romulan area, so they could be like, hey, could we stop by the store, the liquor store, and get some Romulan ale?
Let's go pick something up at the Romulan 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and then what they did was they bought it, they took it, they put it in their replicator, and that's why their replicator can replicate it.
Except for continuity. That scene happened before they went to but anyway.
You know what happens with that? If you give a Romulan ale from the replicator, they look at you and they go, it's a fake. That's for those of you who have seen Deep Space Nine, so never mind.
No, good question would be, what would happen if you gave some Romulan ale to a Borg?
What would a drunk Borg do? It would assimilate.
Short circuit.
It would assimilate the probably everything. It's trying to assimilate that table over there. What's going on with that Borg? Oh, we just had some Romulan ale.
It's like you walk into the room. Where's your hand? Well, you're simulating yourself. Shut up, get out.
Ooh, don't go assimilating yourself. That doesn't look so good.
Oh,
my.
It's another old Earth song. Don't go assimilating yourself. I wouldn't if I tried.
That's hilarious.
The only thing that would have made that scene funnier is if Q would have popped in for a moment. That would
be an uninvited wedding guest. You can see it. Damn it, Q, get the hell out of here. Trying to marry people.
Oh, you guys are getting married. I have a wedding present for you. And then it's a present nobody wants to get them in trouble. And
right. Yeah, that's a whole other spin-off.
Movie.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about also how much fun that Brent Spiner must have had playing those two roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's got all of those comedic lines, and he has to say them with a straight face. I think that's something an actor his caliber loves to do, because you get all the good lines, and that's like, just thank you. As an actor, it's like, thank you for these great lines. I don't even have to work that hard. I just have to say them. That's great.
Well, actually, didn't he also get credit for co-writing the story?
Also, what a great job these writers did for him. Right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
He had all the good lines. Maybe he put them in. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it might be a slight advantage, but I definitely appreciated it.
Yeah. That was a great job for sure.
Yeah. Brent Spiner did the story.
Oh, yeah. He was one of the writers.
John Logan, Rick Berman, Brent Spiner.
I loved the classic scene where the arm reaches up out of the ground and grabs Worf. It's just
that was wild.
That was so funny.
It's like, you don't expect that in a Star Trek movie.
No, it almost looks like something out of like a Halloween
or Evil Dead
or something.
Yes,
Evil Dead.
Yeah, seriously, I bet you he's glad he didn't have any prune juice before then.
Oh boy.
I also thought it was interesting that Geordi got contacts.
Didn't he have those in the previous movie, though? He in First Contact, he was wearing the contacts.
Oh, well, fine. Go ahead. Ruin my celebration.
Hey, you can celebrate. It's okay. As a fellow glasses wearer, I can appreciate not having to wear glasses. However, I've never tried contacts, so I don't know if they look good on me or if I'd enjoy them very much.
They're not fun.
To see LeVar in a natural form is always great, because, when you wear that thing on your head for how many years he was doing that, the visor, it's cool to see him once in a while, He's a good-looking dude.
And I bet he was so happy he didn't have to screw that visor into his head.
I think it's probably part of the contract that he has if he's going to appear. He's like, no visor.
I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, doing that for 7 years, that must have taken some getting used to, for sure.
Well, then, of course, you got Worf with his makeup, and he's the guy that suffers through a bit. I mean, Data, you just kind of hit him with the airbrush, and threw in some contacts. With Worf, you got to glue on the entire, mountain range on his head. So, and I appreciate that too. The things these actors have to do to pull off these characters, it's something else.
A little trivia for everybody. Do you know how they made Geordie's visor?
How?
It was a barrette that women would put in their hair. They just closed it up and painted it.
That looked familiar.
Yep, that's what it was. Right out of the 80s.
No,
Yeah.
Women would have those things all the time.
I had one of those.
Yeah, but you didn't wear it on your head. Or on
Yes,
your face.
I did.
On your face, that is.
Yes, I did.
On your face?
I saw Star Trek. I'm like, oh, cool. And I put it on.
Oh, I want to see a picture of that.
I don't have
If
it.
anybody has a picture of that, I need to see it.
No picture.
Oh, the picture didn't happen.
Oh.
Hey, Fred, get into the computer to see if there's any evidence.
We could Photoshop something, I'm sure.
Oh, no, there's cameras all over the ship.
Well, if you still have it, Heather, you could always take a brand new picture.
I'll put that up for my profile picture on the site.
There you go. That'll look good. I can see the emails now. What did you guys do with Heather?
We gave her a new look.
Yeah, the next thing they would say is, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. WTF. Wisco Tango Foxtrot.
Yep.
So none of you guys have mentioned it yet, but this wedding that we were going to see, this Betazoid wedding, we didn't see it. Was it actually shot or did they cut it? I mean, we wanted to see the Betazoid wedding in the nude. They kept referring to it. Nobody was getting into that. No, I'm just a pervert. Sorry.
That's a different type of video. It's rated XXX. It's called something else.
I just thought, Betazoids are such interesting people. They can read your thoughts, but they marry in the nude and everybody's nude. I'm just like, why? I mean, it's a celebration, but I mean, they must have really good air conditioning in Betazoid.
But it also shows that even in the future, people still a little vain because Picard says he was working out.
Yeah, that was a great moment of comedy. I'm like, oh, Jean-Luc, you really, I guess, everybody could use a little extra time at the gym.
Also, this is another piece of history we saw in Nemesis. It's the first time we ever saw the captain's yacht. Starships have always had them, and this is our first time actually seeing one.
I was amazed they didn't make a bigger deal of that. I mean, they kind of made a little bit of a deal of it, but it was like, oh, he's just flying around on another craft. When you don't realize that it's a thing that the starships have yachts. Why don't we hear this more often? This is really cool.
Did they call it a yacht?
I don't think they use that term. They refer to it as the Argo, right?
Yeah. Well, I like that his yacht had a 4x4 vehicle in the back of it.
Yeah, the dune buggy.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
That dune buggy was rad.
It was cool. I mean, the temptation to put that kind of scene in a movie like this. If you want to talk about stuff you don't see in Star Trek all the time. You definitely don't see a high-speed 4x4 wheel and chase in Star Trek. That was cool.
It was amazing to see that.
And you had a Klingon in the back, so
clinging on to the weapon in the back. Yeah.
Clinging on.
Yeah.
Firing that thing in the back. So that was pretty funny.
It was a ton of fun. This movie had so much darn action in it. When you think about, these actors, what year? It was 2002. So we had the show in the late 80s. So they've been doing stuff for a while, but, to get in there and do all this action, you want to talk about having too much action in movies today or too much action in Discovery. These guys were tearing it up on this film.
It makes me wonder why it wasn't rated higher than it was amongst everybody else. It's kind of confusing to me sometimes the way they do it, because you had Star Trek Beyond, which I thought was excellent, but it got lower ratings than the first couple of Star Treks.
I wonder about that, because is it the critics or is it the fans? Because
I know the reason why.
Oh, she knows the reason.
I know the reason why. Okay, so the people who watch this, the critics, the one that rated this, they're all Star Wars fans.
Oh,
that's why this has low ratings.
Very interesting. I'd have to go check that out. I remember...
Check out their Star Wars ratings. They're all high ratings.
I remember reading an article when they reissued Star Wars, and the newspaper critic, this is when we were still looking at newspapers, sit down for your breakfast and pull out the paper and start reading stuff. But the movie critic was kind of a weirdo. And then he reviewed the reissue of Star Wars and he hated it. I'm like, what the F is wrong with this guy? So I immediately, anything he reviewed, I just like, okay, I'm not paying attention to this dude. And I wondered about critics in general. So critics pan movies. I'm like, why are they panning these movies? Because I like that movie. I like this movie. What's wrong with that movie? And they're telling me not to go because they didn't like it, but maybe I might like it. So maybe I just ignore the critics altogether. And then you've got like a movie like this, and it was done at such a level of high quality for Star Trek. I mean, the animation in that time was just top of the line special effects work. The action sequences were out of anything action movie that you could ever need.
Yeah.
The fight sequences, whether it be hand to hand or the spaceship ship to ship battles, just phenomenal stuff. I mean, yeah, I really was emotionally hurt by the ending of this movie when you kill off a major character like that. And I was depressed and sad, and I didn't buy the darn movie like I normally did with all of them. But still, it was a good frickin' movie.
Well, I wonder, too, if it was maybe in part based on the competition from other movies at the time. Because one thing I didn't realize until I went back and looked at it, right around the time that Nemesis got released, we had Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which was released in November. We had the James Bond movie Die Another Day, which also came out in late November. And then also Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. So you had a lot of
competition.
And Two Towers came out like right in December, within a week of Star Trek. So there were a lot of good movies out at the same time. So looking in hindsight, yeah, maybe if they would have picked a different release date, maybe the movie would have done a little bit better at the box office.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because you can definitely sequence movies to an off time. And they can hold on to them for a little bit longer and release them when things are a little bit deader. You want to get that audience, that winter audience that's got nothing better to do than watch movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting competition. And yeah, you've got all these wonderful movies. I mean, you got a James Bond movie, you've got Lord of the Rings, you got Harry Potter. Those are a whole bunch of niche audiences. And then you got Star Trek, which is super niche. You've got to be a certain level of nerd to like Star Trek and want to go see it in the theater. I don't know why more people aren't at that level of nerddom. But I'm certainly there, and I enjoyed the heck out of it, except for killing my favorite character at the end of the movie.
I bet you if another Next Generation movie had been made, what we probably would have seen is B4 kind of assimilating Data's memories and essentially becoming a new Data.
I hope that's what we see happen, because so much love for the character. Star Trek for me has always been a TV show. When you see a movie, it's like, yeah, that was a pretty good movie, but that was just like a two-parter. It's like we have seasons of these movies, and I think Star Trek thrives on being a show. I don't know if it's financially as useful to the movie studios as a TV show versus a movie, but it's a lot more enjoyable when it's a TV show. I mean, the big budget action sequences are fun, and making, new starships explode, always good fun and great on the big screen. But it's always comes back to, this is a TV show for me, and it's always about the stories.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Rocky, because when you go back and look at Star Trek Insurrection, it's funny. There are some people that really liked the movie, some people that really disliked it. And the ones that liked it a lot was because Insurrection reminded them of the TV show. It was like a two-part or a 2-hour episode, and a lot of fans loved it because of that. Yet the fans that didn't like it disliked it for that very reason. They said, it's just like another TV episode. It's not, like a big action-packed movie.
Yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch that one myself, because it's been a while for that one, but I think I do have that lying around somewhere. But you're right. I remember having that reaction. I was like, yeah, it's a good movie, but why isn't it on TV? Because I love my show and I miss my show. That's kind of the feeling I have as a fan. Yeah,
and for me personally, I love it when the movies seem like a TV episode, because like you said, that's Star Trek's roots. I think it's more of a TV show at heart, and I like movies that resemble that.
Well, you notice that lately, the problems we're having with the Star Wars fans, they're beginning to do it to their own now. They're beginning to sort of eat their own young in a way. When it came to like Solo, I saw the movie Solo. I mean, I had some issues with it, but overall it was entertaining. But they tore that movie apart, and then they wonder why nobody wants to make another one.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's just people paying a little bit too much. We have this thing called Twitter, and people start to react on it, and they react in massive amounts. And yeah, it's a big visual reaction. Everybody can see it, and they couldn't see this before. You might have gotten word of it here and there, but it's definitely, you can physically look at it and count it. It's digitized. People can see exactly what they hate or react, or if they're, just yelling about everything on Twitter, it's there. I think we need to not necessarily use Twitter as a deciding medium for everything, especially when you talk about what kind of content you want to make. But yeah, you can look at it and say, well, the fans get a little hyper about stuff, and sometimes everybody should just chill out a little bit. You're here to have fun.
I agree 100% on that. So hopefully we'll see. As long as they realize that there's still people engaged in Star Trek, as much as there were some elements I didn't agree with the first new J.J. Abrams Star Trek, I was happy that it came out because that meant that we would get more.
Yeah.
And we have gotten more. And I'm quite, that's what brings us now to Picard. I mean, if Picard does really well, they've already renewed it for a second season. So that shows that there's actually going to be some really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to where the direction is going. And plus you have all the actors now who had a chance to kind of percolate on their career on how Star Trek and what it meant to them, just as much as Leonard Nimoy did when he first stopped Star Trek. He had the book, I Am Not Spock. And then what happens a couple of years later after he had a chance to reflect? Came out with a new book, I Am Spock.
It's okay to be Spock,
Yeah. So I think that's what's going to happen there.
It is interesting, like you said, that Picard has already been renewed for a second season. I can't think of any other TV shows where they've done that, where a show gets renewed even before the first episode airs.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. So this is pointing that it's going to be pretty good.
Well, just looking at the trailers again, it looks really good. I can't wait for this. It's only so many weeks now, and we got to get the darn show out because we want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like visiting old friends again, You get a chance to you can't talk to them, but you get a chance to visit them on the screen. It's a level of comfortableness. I find myself sometimes when I've been lucky enough to come across some people, and I usually will start it with, forgive me if I'm overly familiar. Is seeing you in my living room every single day gives me a sense of familiarity I know I do not have. So I will apologize ahead of time. And a lot of them, they understand that, because you get somebody, you feel you know them, and they look at you like, who the hell are you? Why
I wonder about that
me?
Myself. Who the hell am I anyway?
That's a good point there, Rocky.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then you meet somebody and it's like, does this person think I'm insane? I probably am insane. But, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What if you had another genetic version of Picard? And what if it was brought up a different way? So you've got the whole nature versus nurture, like at an extreme level of difference.
Good point.
That's the big cerebral thing for this movie that came out to me.
Yeah.
And striving to be the best you can be is the other theme in it, which from Data's side is how can you be a good human or be a good android, be more than you are.
Well, comparing the nature versus nurture thing, with Picard, he was raised in like a safe environment where he could explore and he could, become more and take risks and feel safe doing it. Whereas this kid, mini Picard, mini me, he was basically abused all of his life. So, he couldn't do the stuff he wanted to do. And he had, a lot of crap that came with it from being abused, such as, the body gain older really fast. I'm not sure exactly the word to say for it. So that puts a lot of stress on someone's body, and he reacted differently. And it's interesting to see same person with the same genes and the same temperament, but have two different raisings, being raised differently. Yeah. And then have two different outcomes. It was something very interesting to see, especially in a movie.
Well, also I was thinking about, he was basically thrown in Romulan prison for like ever. I mean, tortured for 18 years or whatever it was, or 18 hours a day under guard, I think is what it was. It's like, if you're going to
I mean, one, why were they punishing him in the first place? I mean, did he do something bad initially, or he was just part of a plot they threw away? That's messed up. But, you know, when you lock somebody up and torture them, it's inhumane. And what happens to this person after the fact if they come back out again? You know, you look at punishment the way we do it today, or the way other countries do it, and you think about, you know, let's bring it back to the modern day times, and what are we looking at here? What message are we trying to send? What are we trying to think about here?
Don't abuse your kids.
Don't abuse your kids. Don't abuse
your kids.
Don't lock somebody up because they broke a law and then torture them into like insanity. There's better ways to solve problems.
Yeah, there was a scene in the movie where basically, the Shinzon said that, the government changed in Romulus, and they decided they didn't want to follow through on that plot.
Yeah, and they just threw him aside.
So he was discarded, and he felt worthless, and then abused on top of it.
Yeah, it was a bad thing to do to a poor guy. I mean, so what if he was a mutant human in the Romulan world? You think Romulans are a little bit better than that, I would think.
Yeah.
You also saw that something I thought was interesting if you want to go with genetics, how people always say somebody has a good pedigree. Somebody, they cloned him. Of course, you have the whole nature versus nurture part you brought up, but also instinctively, he was a good tactician. It's like that came from, I believe, from Picard's genes in a way. You know, he didn't grow up. Nobody obviously taught him all of that. But yet he was still a really good tactician. And I think that came from his donor, so to speak.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they were trying to get out, when they were having, at the very end of the movie and explosions, and they're trying to get out, and oh my God, Data, he doesn't know what the password is, and he has to put the password in. Dude, how many times did he put in a password? Maximum times, dude. Okay, you can only input a password so many times before it locks you out, and it did not lock him out, and that bugged me. I'm just saying that bugged me. I'm sitting there watching him like he really should have been locked out by now.
Yeah, B4 was hacking through the Enterprise computer, and that looked like the Matrix special effects. Like, hello, that's the Matrix. He's hacking the Matrix. It doesn't look like actual computer stuff. So when you're talking about, you date your effects, you effects date your movie. That kind of pulled me out a little bit. It felt a little non-Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
They should have had Lisa block out a timer. Like every time he get the password wrong, it's like you must wait 5 minutes to re-enter the password. You must,
exactly.
Even the friggin' phones do that.
Oh man,
yes.
That was a good point.
I like the part where Picard was chatting with him over subspace, and he's texting commands to move the ship, just like sending it via text while he's talking. I was like, he's totally texting. Like that's like a thing we do now. And it wasn't as big of a thing back then. It's kind of funny.
Where did Shinzon get B4 to begin with? You wouldn't think there are that many copies of Data floating around. It
was a backup copy. Insert the crickets.
Yes.
Sorry.
That means there were 3 more, right? B1, B2.
Yeah,
B3.
if you got a couple copies, that's right. You do, you want to copy and triplicate if you can. You store them on different planets in case one explodes. Yeah.
I guess one day we might see a female Data.
Now we're talking.
Oh, does that mean we get to see Brent Spiner in a wig?
That would be hilarious.
I want to see him in a wig and dress.
We may have seen that before somewhere.
Talk about fresh hell.
Oh my God. That was something else. If you guys saw Fresh Hell. Whoa. Did you guys see that? That was a web series on YouTube.
No, I didn't
Brent
see
Spiner.
that.
No.
Oh yeah. That's actually, it was called Fresh Hell.
Fresh Hell?
Yep.
Oh my God.
That's why I threw it in. You guys need to see that.
That was weird. Yeah. Should take a look at that. Go dig that up.
So what do I Google?
I think you just look for Fresh Hell and Brent Spiner on YouTube and you'll come up with it.
It'll come up.
I don't know if I ever want my name to be Googled and associated with Fresh Hell.
Hey, it's publicity. It's all about the search engine.
Yeah, okay.
Optimization, baby.
There was one point where there was a crash and people started getting sucked down into space One
that
person.
poor helmsman.
Yes, he got sucked out. I just want to point out, not one person mentioned the guy after he got sucked out of the ship. They didn't grieve for him.
Oh.
They didn't say, "Oh,
We lost
damn,
Data.
so and so lost." Yeah, exactly. And
What about
I'm
that
thinking,
guy? Oh, the hell with him.
right. And I'm thinking, okay, so that must have been the dude that was eating everyone's food in the break room fridge. And they just didn't like him. And they're like, oh, good.
You
good
really
for you.
shouldn't mess around with the break room fridge, okay? Just
Right.
leave it alone.
I think he was the equivalent to the original series Red Shirt guy.
Oh, yeah, you can tell right at the beginning. It's like, okay, we got this character, that character, this. Who the fuck is that guy? He's not going to last this movie. He's going to go. And sure enough, they blew the hell out of the view screen, and he got sucked right out. First thing, gone.
You know, technically, if it was somebody else like Counselor Troy, the Picard would have went, transporter room, lock on her signature, and beam her straight to sick bay.
It wasn't like he was out there very long. It's like he could have still been breathing. You just get to beam him back in. He's only slightly crispy frozen.
Yeah.
You got another
like,
person out there.
Nope, the transporters are done.
He was like, fuck that guy. He owed me money.
Picard's like, God damn it, I got to write another one of these letters. Sorry, regret to inform you. Damn it. He's copying and pasting from another list of all these poor people we've lost over the years.
So he said his job sucked. I guess he was right.
Okay, I think we're making that the show title. This job sucked. I guess he was right.
But that is a good point. They could have at least made a cursory reference to trying the transporter.
Nope.
And saying, oh, sorry.
We're in the middle of a battle here. We're getting our hell blown out of us. We're not going to worry about that guy.
And speaking of which, while they were getting the hell blown out of them, no freaking seatbelts and no airbags.
Right.
I mean,
Starships
nothing.
are not safe.
Right. Like, seriously, lost technologies. And it's 2003. Come on.
Yep.
Dramatic liberty.
Oh, that could have been a PSA commercial over there on why somebody could turn around and say why there is a need for seatbelts on the bridge because of random people being sucked out into space.
The footage was lost when they blew the view screen off of it.
The least they could do is in Picard put up billboards saying, hey, we need to pass this safe belt, law to have safe belts, or,
Only been 3
seatbelts.
days since somebody got sucked out of the bridge.
Right. We need seatbelts in bridges. Come on. Pass this law.
You need a Starfleet version of OSHA.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be an annoying side of the Starfleet. That wouldn't be Section 31, that's for sure.
Umbridge would be in charge of it. From Harry Potter.
Yes.
I could see her as the head of OSHA.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine Captain Picard and Umbridge going
Wouldn't that be
head-to-head?
fantastic?
I can almost see that as a YouTube video. So, Rocky, I know you're disappointed that Data unfortunately died, but what did you guys think at the end, though, with B4? Do you think he was starting to show, some signs of kind of like evolving a little bit?
It was slow, though. I mean, it was taking a long time because, between scene to scene and the time that evolved in the movie, it was not sufficient. Maybe in a couple of months, it might be it might be something more interesting.
No. It never worked out, and that's why they stuffed him in a drawer.
Yeah, they stick him in a drawer because he couldn't take the upgrade.
Well, they had a little bit of an indication that something was happening because he sang Data's song because Data did a memory dump transfer.
Yeah, but a singing android can only get you so far in Starfleet.
Well, my bet is if the next movie had been made, because remember, there were plans for another movie, that might have been the big reveal in the next movie, where he would have become like a fully functional Data.
You bring up a good point, Fred, because what happened, remember they caught Lore, and they took Lore apart and deactivated him. What happened if they found a way, or Geordi found a way to upload Data's neural network to Lore's, basically wipe out Lore and upgrade Data through that? That's
an interesting point.
It is interesting. But I also wonder, because we have so many different versions of Data, when you're designing an android, at what point do you have the hardware at a certain level where it's just software?
Well, the thing is Lore had the emotional chip and Data didn't. So if you did that, Data would then have that emotional chip and he could feel emotion for the first time. Or not first time, but
Didn't he have one earlier in Insurrection where he was scared and he told him just to turn the chip off?
Yeah, because he did put it back
probably.
in, but he's kept it off since. So it wasn't on.
Okay.
I mean, turned it off in First Contact, and except when the Borg reactivated it and really messed with him.
Oh, that's right.
Didn't seem to be activated in this movie. That's for sure.
Right.
Sometimes it's just better not to be emotional about things.
What do you think the moral of Nemesis was?
Don't clone people and abuse them.
Yeah, be nice to your clone. And don't have sex at the same time some evil telepath is lurking. What the hell with that scene? Whoa, that was creepy.
Little rapey.
Very. The worst, physical rape is bad, but mental rape is like so much more terrifying. I'm sorry. It scared the hell out of me.
Yeah. But she did get revenge.
She got it. Yeah. And she got targeting phasers by doing Ouija board mode. I mean, that was freaking cool.
Don't piss off a Betazoid.
Yeah.
Do not piss off a Betazoid.
Yeah.
Seriously. Just like, I was close and you interrupted. You're going to pay for that.
Right? So wrong.
Oh, my God. And for him to not realize, like, oh, you're in the middle of something. Sorry.
Exactly, right? Like, oh, my goodness. What's going on here? I'll be right back.
Later.
I'll come back later. Yeah. I'll give you guys 20 minutes. Come back later. Good.
I'll possess you later when you're in the shower.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
A little safer there.
Well, plus, other than being, creepy and just, being, I guess, evil, what strategic advantage was there to it? It wasn't like, Troy was.
He
on
just
the
liked her
bridge.
hair.
He was getting his rocks off.
Yeah, that's no strategy to anything other than get your rocks off. Exactly. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude's been in a prison for how long? Hasn't been around women. I mean, come on.
The first Betazoid he's seen in so many years, right? Yeah.
Right, and he's like, isn't he a teenager or near a teenager? He's ready.
Yeah, he was in horny mode, as it were.
Yeah, pent up stuff.
I mean, and how could you not? I mean, she's not a bad looking woman, and they didn't have any other hot
gorgeous.
looking. How many other hot looking ensigns were on the ship? I didn't see as many, that's for sure. So yeah, I mean, main female characters in this movie. You guys want to bitch about something? How many main female characters were in this movie besides Counselor Troy? I mean, Beverly was in there for a little bit, but you had the Romulan commander, but that was about it. There wasn't anything else going on. So you want to talk about equality of casting? Right.
So our moral is, if you are a telepath or if you do astral projection, do not interrupt people during intimate moments. It could turn out bad for you.
It's one thing to be a voyeur, totally different to take part, right? I'm sorry, we're in super creep mode now, so I'll just shut up.
And I just want to say you are absolutely right. This movie actually does not pass the Bechdel test. And the Bechdel test is it's an actual test where you watch a movie and you see if two women talk about something other than a guy. But there's two things, and that's one of them. And it didn't pass.
Okay, well, there you go.
That seems to be a little bit on our morals here of this story. I think we've learned not to be evil to clones, especially if you're a tactician Starfleet captain. Not to be creepy or rapey if you got psychic powers. And it was a good, I think, show to kind of prime us for Picard coming out. So I think that was really, really awesome. In that respects. Now, before we get ready to tie it up here, because I know Section 31 only gave us but so much for this week, does anybody get any news they want to share? Anything personal, any projects they got going on?
Well, just one last comment on Nemesis.
Of course.
I think this movie does a good job of showing the ties, I guess, between Picard and the Romulans. I mean, especially at the end, where, those two Romulan commanders end up, helping Picard and, they're trying to stop Shinzon. I think, that opens up a relationship between the Federation. and the Romulan Empire. So you kind of see the seeds for why Picard has a special interest in them. So that may play into Picard.
I have to agree. It's going to be curious to see how all of this comes together and how all of our homework will give us a new insight once it starts. Now, remember, for those of you out there, we're out there on social media, so follow us on our Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts, and if you want to email your comments, it's The Collective at starfleetunderground.com. It's all one word there, The Collective at starfleetunderground.com. This has been Nathan, Heather, Fred, and Rocky telling you to have not only a great new year, but make it so.
Starfleet Underground, beaming in January 2020 to a podcast feed near you. Log on to our website at starfleetunderground.com and send your comments and questions to thecollective@starfleetunderground.com. Follow us on Twitter at StarfleetUnderG and on Facebook and Instagram, we're Starfleet Underground.